Welcome forward here. I'd like to bring you the second installment here of The Internal Poles by Claude Bragdon, Chapter 1. Chapter 1, Personality and the Life Force. Deep in the basement of the building in which I live is a dynamo which generates electricity. My food is both cooked and chilled by means of it. My room is illuminated by it. It runs the elevators, vacuum cleaners, and the electric fans. Through each human being flows, correspondingly, an undifferentiated force, call it the life force, which, operating through the various bodily organs and mechanisms, accomplishes all the manifold vital processes and manifest also as sensation, perception, cognition, will, passion, and emotion. When the organism is not well adjusted to the impulsion of the life force, the health and spirit are affected, and when this maladjustment passes a certain point, there occurs the phenomena of death. But the life force does not cease at death any more than the burning out of an electric light bulb stops the dynamo in the basement. To change the figure, the life force is related to the personality in something the same way that the builder and operator of a machine is related to the mechanism. I believe this for what may seem a naive reason, that man is himself a machine builder and operator, producing, from the bow and arrow to the printing press, mechanisms more and more ingenuous and animate. The personality, organized and energized by the life force, cannot do other than repeat in its own way and its own plane of manifestation the creative activity of its progenitor. The life force is conditioned as regards the personality in the same way as is the operator of a machine by its mechanism. He can accomplish with it only that for which it is adapted and of which it is capable. The personality is conscious of the life force in much the same way and to the same extent as an engine might be of its operator. Such things as desire, aversion, pleasure, pain, being indices of the will of the life force in the same way that the operation of the starter, accelerator, brake, and other devices might indicate to an automobile the will of its driver, though nothing of his purpose in his so willing. The personality, however, and here's the analogy, is again inadequate, participates after its fashion and in the consciousness of the life force, is, all unconsciously, the consciousness. This is the reason why the personality, through the subject time, feels itself a time binder. Though prisoned in form and coerced by causation, feels itself free. It asserts its belief in immortality in the face of the ever-present fact of death by its death-defying courage and imprudence, and its belief in its own freedom by revolting against the life force, as though itself were sole prime mover. This careless progenitally and rebellion in the part of the personality is really an evidence of the creativeness and freedom of the life force, which affirms its immortality by death and its liberty by destruction. Man walks daily on the edge of his grave, and it can be only by some intimidation of his immortality that he is careless of this danger, living as though it did not exist. Such indifference is itself a sign that he is actually filled with this conviction. Now, the only possible salvation for the personality consists in the realization that it exists not for its own sake or for its own pleasure, but for the use of the life force and in the abdication of its individual will as a consequence of such realization. For when this fusion of the two occur, the personality becomes a conscious participator in the freedom and the eternalness of the life force, which, in turn, realizes itself anew through the organ of the individual uniqueness. It is a consummation which may be compared with the first opening of the eye upon the sun, since in a sense the sun exists anew in every eye which sees it. In like manner, the life force, the Redeemer, lives again in each redeemed. A realization of this must have inspired the ecstatic cry of the mystic, "I am as necessary to God as He is necessary to me." For this gift of the personality to the life force is a mutual gift, like that of lovers to one another. It is the giving of life to itself, and the acceptance of life from itself in order to experience its oneness. Becomes what thou art, is an admonition to the personality, thus to give itself to itself, for it is and can become only the life force. Goethe has given expression to the same idea in the famous couplet, "Our life is pawned to life, its only pledge. Is life itself the sole redemption?" The inner identity of all religious teaching. Unity of being through the union of the Creator, union of the creature with its Creator constitutes the inner content of every religious or religion worthy of the name. It is the theme of every truly spiritual teacher and of every singer of sacred songs. Lao Tzu said, "He who acts in accordance with Tao becomes one with the Tao." Buddha said, "The dewdrop slips into the shining sea." Christ said, "I am in the Father, and the Father is in me." But these simple and clear statements of the central and essential truth, human existence, has become so overlaid and obscured by ologies and doxies of various sorts that the direct and realistic modern mind will look no longer at those stained glass windows which color and keep out the clear light of simple, comprehensible truth. We have preferred to keep our eyes where our feet are planted, on the firm ground of science, a science which we had been taught to believe was materialistic until Einstein, Eddington, and the other high priests of theoretical physics came along and assured us that the material world was only another name for the infinitesimal part of the cosmos, which can be mathematically measured, and therefore might more appropriately be called the metrical world, particularly as matter, in the old meaning of the word, simply does not exist. Ouspensky, in Tertium Organum, predicted that science must come to mysticism, and already the leaders of scientific thought have crossed the threshold which divides our familiar three-dimensional house of life from an unknown out-of-doors of the fourth dimension. They are even beginning to consider the necessity of postulating in the cosmic, or the cosmos, and the cosmic mind, if only for the amazing mathematically orderliness and coherence they find there. Even so, should Ouspensky's prophecy be fulfilled, should the scientist's idea of the life force be found to coincide with the mystic's idea of God, it would make no real difference so long as the whole thing remains solely in the region of concept. For save as a stimulus to action, thought is sterile, and it is more apt to enervate the will than to energize it. The habit of theorizing prevents us from feeling reality, makes us immune to it, makes it seem no more than another thought. This is doubtless the reason why Christ and Buddha concerned themselves little with the cosmos conception and greatly with conduct of life. They knew that the truth is found only by living, not by thinking about life. The manner of living, that is to say, the conduct of life, prescribed by Christ and Buddha, is efficacious today as when first taught by them, or rather acted by them in the drama of their lives. Those lives, so different in condition, circumstance, and consummation, were alike in their renunciation of those things commonly held dear and desirable for the sake of some superior, some supreme beneficence, named by Buddha, Nirvana, and the kingdom of heaven by Christ. Each made, in a different way, his entire life an allegory of the relinquishment of the personality to the life force. Every religion, because it is concerned with the transcending of the personal limitation, is capable of being interpreted in these two terms. In Brahmanism, they are referred to as the eternal self and the great self without selfishness. We'll say that again. In Brahmanism, they are referred to as the elemental self and the great self without selfishness, the lower self and the higher. This self is one with the Tao of Chinese mystical philosophies, which is eternally inactive and yet leaves nothing undone, that from which all spiritual beings draw their spirituality. This, in turn, is not different from nirvana. In Christianity, the life force is the Father in heaven, and the personality is the Son. In this unregenerative state of the prodigal son, who says, "I will arise and go to my Father," sacrifice is the sacrifice of the personality to the life force in the interest of his own salvation. Communion is the community of consciousness between the personality and the life force, and atonement at one-ment, their final unification one with another.